Hello, my name is Elliott. I'm the editor of the Energy Strategist. I want to talk a little bit today about the natural gas inventory report released this morning by the Department of Energy. It's released every Thursday at about 10:35 a.m. Expectations were for about a 65 to 67 billion cubic foot build over last week's inventories. The average for this time of year is about a 77 billion cubic foot build. What we actually saw today was only a 51 billion cubic foot build in inventories, which is far below average, is actually far below what had been expected. It's normal for this time of year for us to see an actual build in inventories. The reason is we're in what's called the shoulder season. We're in the period between the summer cooling season and the winter heating season. So natural gas demand tends to be quite low this time of year. So you tend to see inventories build up in storage as production exceeds consumption. But this is a much lower number than what we would normally see for this time of year at only 51 billion cubic feet. The main reason for that is the passage of the two hurricanes earlier or late last summer and this month, Hurricanes Gustav and Ike. Although the general media sort of portray them as a non-event, the reality is that we've seen significant gas shut-ins since that time. Currently, as of yesterday, we still had about 4.2 billion cubic feet a day of natural gas production shut in the Gulf of Mexico, meaning that is gas that's just not flowing on shore. The other thing that we've been hearing about from a lot of the CEOs is that there are a number of natural gas processing plants that are currently sitting offline. Now what processing plants do is when you produce natural gas, it's called raw or wet natural gas, it actually contains a lot of other chemicals besides pure methane, which are called natural gas liquids. Those natural gas liquids must be separated from the gas before it's put into the nation's pipeline network. So what we've actually seen is a number of those processing plants are down, so producers are having to shut in production simply because they have no way of processing that gas into usable form. So we really are seeing natural gas inventories really tighten up here the last couple of weeks as a result of these hurricanes. As we stand right now, natural gas inventories in the U.S. are only about 35 billion cubic feet above average for this time of year. You're talking about total gas and storage of over 3 trillion cubic feet, so 35 billion cubic feet is a pretty meaningless number, really. I believe we're going to end this shoulder season, which should end around first part of November. We'll enter the winter heating season with natural gas inventories at or just slightly over average. I do not believe that's consistent with current natural gas prices. I think natural gas prices are too depressed based on that kind of an inventory picture. We're now trading with a natural gas strip, which is the average of the next 12 months of natural gas prices. The strip currently is around 8 to 850 a million BTUs. I think we're probably more fair price for natural gas right now would be more like 9 or 10. The main concern that's been hanging over the market is natural gas shale. Many of you know what that is. But basically, just 2 or 3 years ago in the United States, most analysts thought we were going to become a huge importer of natural gas in the form of liquefied natural gas. And that gas would be coming from places like Russia, like the Middle East, like Africa. Because the feeling was that U.S. natural gas production would continue to decline as it had been. The reality, though, is it now looks like the U.S. may very well become the world's largest natural gas producer. And we actually have a surplus of natural gas production in the U.S. And it all has to do with these shale plays. Over the last 3 or 4 years, we've discovered a number of these shale plays. And the reality is that there's new technology out there which allows us to actually produce this shale. There are 2 key technologies to look at, horizontal drilling and what's known as fracturing. The problem with most shale reserves, even though we've known about them for decades, they contain lots of gas, but that gas is in what's called an impermeable reservoir. Now most of you know that natural gas does not exist underground in a giant cavern. It's not a matter of just sticking a pipe in the ground and producing the natural gas. The natural gas actually exists naturally in the cracks and crevices and pores of a reservoir rock. The problem with a lot of these shale reserves is those pores are not well connected. There's no way for the natural gas to flow through the rock and into a well. So using old oil field technology, there was no way to produce these shale plays economically. Using horizontal drilling and fracturing it is. Horizontal drilling involves drilling down and sideways through the most prolific part of the shale reservoir. That exposes more of the well pipe to the productive part of the reservoir. The other key technology is what's known as fracturing. As I mentioned, those pores in the shale are not well connected. To change that, what we do is we pump a liquid under extremely high pressures into the ground and we physically crack the rock. By cracking the rock, we actually create little channels through which the gas can flow to the well. And that's what really a lot of producers have been doing over the last few years. The largest natural gas field in the United States is the Barnett Shale, which is around Fort Worth, Texas. This play was actually discovered in the 70s. The first wells were drilled in the early 80s. Between 1981 and 1990, there were only 82 wells drilled in the Barnett Shale. Last year alone, there were almost 3,000 wells drilled in the Barnett Shale. So it's simply the matter of this new technology allowing these shale plays to be produced. The concern is that if all these shale plays were produced, you would actually see production well exceed consumption in the United States. My feeling, however, is that there are certain infrastructure constraints to a lot of these shale plays. In other words, not enough pipeline capacity, not enough processing capacity, and certainly a lot of producers are not going to go out there and produce natural gas if it's trading at $6 for a million BTUs. My view, and I think it's backed up by the current inventory picture, is that natural gas prices should remain somewhere between $8.50 and $11 for a million BTUs for the foreseeable future. And I really think that supports a lot of the companies that are involved in exploration and production of natural gas. Thank you very much for listening to me today, and I look forward to doing another one of these very soon.